The Human Security Officer, Part 61. A few moments ago, the bustling corridors of the station echoed with the mingled sounds of conversation and activity. Deeg, a seasoned officer of the Nebula, was navigating through the throng of scientists, engineers, and station personnel. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement and curiosity as the crew of the Nebula went about their business, each one caught up in their own little world. Deeg, however, was on a mission. He had just received a lead that could change everything for the crew. His objective was clear: find Tunny T, the ship's enigmatic and skilled engineer, who had been absorbed in conversations with Terran scientists. Deeg knew that Tunny T was likely still in the main lab on the station's floor, engaged in technical discussions that fascinated them. As he maneuvered through the crowd, the aroma of oil and metal filled the air, mingling with the scent of food from the nearby cafeteria. Suddenly, Deeg collided with a tall, broad-shouldered human who was striding purposefully in the opposite direction. The impact jolted both men. Apologies, Deeg began, about to excuse himself. No need, sir. The fault was mine. I wasn't watching where I was going. Please accept my apologies, the man responded, his voice deep and resonant. Deeg studied the man's face, noting the genuine expression of regret. I appreciate that. The man hesitated, as if considering his next words carefully. Say. Yes? Deeg prompted. I hate to make assumptions, but given that there aren't many non-humans around here, you wouldn't happen to be a part of that ocean ship's crew, would you? The one that came in for repairs? I'm its captain, actually, Deeg replied, a hint of pride in his voice. Captain? You don't say. What luck? I saw the damage when it arrived. Nasty stuff, but that's not what I wanted to ask about. The security officer you have is human, right? A woman, quite tall even by human standards. Penelope, yes. She's been, what was your term, a godsend? I bet, Scylla, yes. You've hit the jackpot in terms of experience and capability. You know her? Deeg asked, surprised. Oh yes. That's what I wanted to ask you about. We're not especially close, I wouldn't say. I haven't seen her in quite a while, but I'd love to get in touch with her. Unfortunately, I'm in a bit of a rush myself. Not all of us have the same luck in hiring competent allies as you do. If you wouldn't mind terribly giving this to her, it would allow me to say hello and catch up. The man handed Deeg a small communication device. It was outdated tech, almost primitive, yet it seemed reliable in its simplicity, capable of little more than sending text messages. Of course, Deeg replied, examining the curious device. Who should I say gave me this? When he looked up, the man had vanished. Deeg scanned the crowd but found no trace of him, as if the man had simply evaporated into the bustling throng of station personnel. Puzzled, Deeg shrugged it off and continued his journey to the lab, where he found Tunny T surrounded by an array of scientists, each bombarding them with questions. It took some effort, but he eventually managed to extract Tunny T from their captivated audience. Together, they made their way back to the Nebula, the small device still tucked securely in Deeg's pocket. Presently, on the bridge of the Nebula, Pen slowly approached Deeg, her expression unreadable. He handed her the communication device, noting her furrowed brow as she examined the archaic technology. It's old, she remarked, but there's a certain reliability to it, I suppose. An uneasy silence enveloped the room as she scrutinized the device, a frown creasing her forehead. Pen, is everything? Deeg began, but she suddenly pushed past him, her pace brisk and determined. Where are you going? Gareth called, following closely behind as both men tried to keep pace with her urgency. Pen strode towards the ship's security station, her mind racing with thoughts. She flipped on the screens, her fingers deftly accessing the security cameras. Deeg, the security cameras should have been recording during the repairs, right? She asked, her voice tense with anticipation. Yeah. They keep running as part of the emergency systems, so even with the main power out, They'd stay on with auxiliary power, Deed confirmed. Good. I need to backtrack through the footage. With a flurry of taps on the console, Penn began scrolling through the recordings from earlier in the day. The timestamp indicated just a few minutes after most of the crew had departed for the station plaza. The first thing that caught her was the cargo bay camera feed suddenly going dark. "Here we go," she murmured, pausing the video and playing it forward. A fleeting image caught her attention, a figure moving swiftly away from the ship. It was too blurry to discern any details, but it was enough to raise her suspicions. Penn rewound the footage, carefully examining each camera feed that captured the corridor leading from the cargo bay to her quarters. With each blink of darkness, her anxiety grew until the hallway cam flickered back to life for just a moment. "What's happening here?" she wondered aloud, noticing a shadowy figure dart past the camera. "Penn, what are you seeing?" Gareth asked, peering over her shoulder. She played the clip forward at normal speed, her heart racing. As the feed came into focus, the figure stared directly into the lens. A gloved hand gestured in a calming motion, and then he produced a coin, one that looked hauntingly familiar. The figure flipped it in the air, caught it with expert dexterity, and waved it at the camera before the feed abruptly cut to black. "That's it," Penn breathed, her heart pounding in her chest. "What?" Deeg leaned closer, his interest piqued. She rewound the footage again, freezing the frame where the figure had been visible. The image was grainy, but she scrutinized it intensely, committing every detail to memory. The figure was dressed in a heavy cloak, obscuring any identifiable markers. A breather mask covered his face, making it impossible to discern his features. "Is this him?" she asked, glancing at Deeg. "I can't say for sure, but it could be." "The cloak is the same," he replied, his brow furrowing. "Did you see his face?" she pressed, urgency in her voice. "Yeah. Well, big, obviously, but big like you. Broader shoulders, like that. Grayish hair?" He had facial hair, but it was short. "Anything else? Skin color? Any markings?" Penn's mind raced with possibilities. "I'm sorry, Penn. My attention was more on the device. He disappeared so quickly, I didn't get a good look. I only noticed the hair because it stood out compared to you. I take it this man is no friend of yours? Given what he's done, I'd say not." "But it doesn't make sense," she replied, frustration evident in her tone. "What he's done? You think he is connected to the explosion?" Deeg asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Enraxia, as well as the derelict ship, if I had to bet on it. It all fits together quite nicely. Except—" "What?" Gareth prompted. "Well, the loser on Raxia was fighting for keeps, but the sharpshooter who executed him could have hit me and still gotten to him but chose not to. Then there's the bomb, a clear sign there. Yet he walks into my room and doesn't leave another bomb? If these are all connected, it's as if he can't make up his mind," Deeg pondered. "He didn't seem to hold any malice for you when he spoke to me. He called you a friend, or at least close to a friend. He could simply be a psychopath," Gareth interjected dryly. "A psycho with a very complex and well-established operation?" Deeg shot back. "They generally don't attract many followers, and they don't have the disciplined personality needed to run something capable of everything we've seen. I suppose you could." Deeg glanced at the pager in Penn's hand. "Ask?" Penn looked down at the device, anxiety twisting in her stomach. It was the only reliable way to get information, but it was also exactly what this person wanted. "I don't see any other choice, but I need to think." "You okay if you get underway without me?" she asked, her resolve hardening. Deeg nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. "Absolutely. But I feel it isn't too much of me to ask that you not keep anything of this secret from us. At this point, it involves the ship and every member of the crew." Penn nodded, a sharp pang twisting in her chest, before she turned and walked off to her quarters, the tension between them thick with unspoken concerns. Once in her room, She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the two items she'd placed on her desk, the old communicator and the coin. Minutes stretched into eternity as she wrestled with her thoughts. If her gaze could impart force, she'd have crushed them by now. Finally, determination surged within her. She stood, crossed the room, and snatched the pager from her desk. Her fingers hovered over the simple keypad for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Was all she sent, her heart racing. The silence stretched, then a response appeared. Well, she speaks. What do you want? She typed back, frustration bubbling to the surface. Firstly, a chance to redo first impressions. I very much think I failed to get off on the right foot. I will clarify here and now that any attempt on your life or the lives of your crew were not on my orders. In fact, they were in direct violation of my orders. They were, however, still my fault. I assure you I have put things right in that regard. Offenders have been punished. All right, she replied, skepticism flooding her mind. With that said, I'll move to the other matter. I've actually been trying to reach out to you for quite some time now. You haven't made it easy. If this is about the weapons crates, I've already handed them back to UEMC hands. Is that a problem? Pen shot back, her patience thinning. Oh no, not at all. I would have liked them, but I'm just as happy to see you put them to good use. Then what? All this sneaking onto the ship and chasing me down. Why not just meet in person? Trust me, Scylla, that is what I would have preferred, but I figured the debacle with that moron Arthur might have colored your perception. And then the bomb situation. I wouldn't have blamed you for attacking me outright. So, though I would prefer to do things more directly, I thought to explain myself before we do, and I do intend to meet in person. Before all the interceding issues, the idea was to make you an offer. You were the marksman? Penn asked, her mind racing. No, but she works under me. Talented, but not like us, at least not yet. Who are you? I left my coin to get your attention, but also as a small clue. You know, we've actually spoken before. This isn't our first meeting. Your coin? Oh yes. We were stationed aboard the same ship, if only for a week. I was made to step down, and Alvarez took my place. I was leaving, and you were arriving. We really didn't have much contact because of that. But please, Scylla, call me Charybdis. I think you'll like what I'm offering. Pen leaned back against her desk, her heart pounding in her chest. The name resonated within her, a distant memory surfacing in the depths of her mind. Charybdis, a figure she had heard of in hushed whispers, known for navigating the undercurrents of the galaxy's darker dealings. As she grappled with this revelation, questions churned in her thoughts. What was it he wanted? What offer could he possibly extend that would make all of this worth the chaos that had followed? A deep breath steadied her resolve. This conversation was just beginning, and she intended to take control of it. She quickly typed her next message, determined to navigate this treacherous new territory with caution. Why should I trust you? She typed, each letter feeling heavy with the weight of her suspicions. A moment passed before the response appeared on her screen. Trust is a fragile thing, Scylla. But consider this. You've just seen the lengths to which I go to protect my interests. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. If I wanted your crew dead, they'd be dead. But I don't want that. I need you and your crew alive, and I believe we can help each other. There's a storm coming, and you'll need allies. A storm, she repeated, curiosity piqued despite her reservations. Yes. One that could affect the entire sector. The kind of storm that leaves nothing but wreckage in its wake. I want to prevent that, and for that, I need your cooperation. Penn considered his words carefully. Charybdis had a way of weaving a narrative that both intrigued and unsettled her. What was the truth behind this storm? What threat loomed on the horizon? She needed to tread carefully, trusting him could lead to their ruin, but denying his offer could lead to something far worse. What do you propose? She typed, her heart pounding. "I want to meet. I have information that could change everything for you, your crew, and this entire station. Meet me at the old docks by midnight. Bring only those you trust completely." Penn stared at the screen, her mind racing. The invitation to meet was a double-edged sword, tempting yet fraught with danger. She glanced around her room, the silence almost deafening. After a moment of contemplation, she took a deep breath and typed her response. "Fine. I'll meet you. But if this is a trap, I won't hesitate to take you down." "Fair enough, Scylla. I'll see you soon." As the message disappeared from her screen, Penn felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. The shadows danced in her room, each flicker of light reflecting her internal struggle. She had just agreed to meet a man who had ties to the chaos surrounding her, a figure who had slipped through the cracks of her past and had now re-emerged with a dangerous proposition. With a newfound determination, she stood up and paced the small confines of her room. She needed a plan, a strategy to ensure her crew's safety. This was not just about her anymore, it was about everyone aboard the Nebula. As she weighed her options, thoughts of Deeg and Gareth flooded her mind. She had to involve them in her decision. Together, they could figure out how to approach this encounter with Charybdis. The stakes were higher than ever, and the line between ally and enemy had never been more blurred. Quickly, Penn left her room and made her way to the bridge, where Deeg and Gareth were discussing the day's events. Their voices filled the air, the tension palpable as they pored over the details of the situation. "Penn!" Deeg exclaimed as she entered. "We were just talking about you. What did you find?" "I need both of you to listen carefully," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I've just been in contact with someone connected to everything happening around us." Deeg raised an eyebrow, concern evident on his face. "Who?" "Charybdis," she revealed, watching their reactions closely. Gareth's expression shifted, a mix of surprise and intrigue. "He's notorious in the underbelly of the galaxy." "What does he want?" "He wants to meet. He claims to have information about a looming threat, something he calls a storm." "I think we should consider it," Penn explained. Deeg crossed his arms, his brow furrowing. "What kind of threat are we talking about?" "Something big, something that could affect not just us but the entire sector. He insists we can help each other, but I need to tread carefully." "This could be a trap," Penn admitted, her voice low. "What do you think, Gareth?" Deeg turned to him, seeking his insight. Gareth rubbed his chin, contemplating the implications. "If he's offering useful information, we'd be foolish to ignore it. But we have to be cautious. We can't trust him entirely." "Agreed," Penn said, her mind racing. "We need a plan. I'm meeting him at the old docks by midnight. We should devise a strategy for the encounter, decide who to bring, and how we'll handle the situation if things go south." "Let's prepare," Deeg said decisively, and Gareth nodded, his face a mask of determination. As the trio huddled together, discussing their options, Penn felt a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. They would face whatever came next together, the united front against the shadowy forces gathering on the horizon. The clock ticked closer to midnight, the seconds stretching into an eternity. Penn could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her shoulders, but she was ready to face Charybdis and whatever truth lay hidden in the darkness. The storm was coming, and they would meet it head-on. The atmosphere in the room crackled with tension as the time approached. Penn glanced at Deeg and Gareth, both of them nodding in silent agreement. They had each other's backs, no matter what happened. As they made their way toward the docks, the shadows of the station loomed large behind them, a reminder of the uncertainties they faced. The winding corridors were illuminated only by the flickering lights above, casting an eerie glow that heightened the sense of danger. Finally, they reached the docks, the air thick with anticipation. The distant sounds of the station faded, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. The moon hung high in the sky, casting silvery rays across the ground, illuminating the spot where they would meet Charybdis. Penn's heart raced as she scanned the area, her instincts on high alert. "Stay close," she whispered to Deeg and Gareth, who nodded in agreement. As they waited, time seemed to stretch, the night cloaking them in shadows. Finally, a figure emerged from the darkness, the silhouette unmistakable. Penn felt a rush of adrenaline as Charybdis stepped into the moonlight, his demeanor calm yet calculating. "Scylla," he greeted, his voice smooth and alluring. "You came." "I'm here," Penn replied, her voice steady. "Now tell me what you want." "Straight to the point." "I like that," he remarked, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips. "What I want is to keep you and your crew safe." "Safe from what?" Penn demanded, not willing to let him dictate the pace of the conversation. "From the storm I mentioned. A powerful faction is on the rise, one that could spell disaster for you and everyone on this station." Charybdis explained, his tone serious now. "What kind of faction?" Deeg interjected, his eyes narrowing. "The kind that thrives on chaos and destruction. They seek to control the sector, and they won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who stands in their way," Charybdis replied, his gaze locking onto Penn's. "And you know this how?" she pressed, unwilling to let him off the hook. "I have my sources. Let's just say, I've been watching the movements of this faction for some time now. They're making plans, and you're in their crosshairs," Charybdis said, his voice low and urgent. Penn felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you propose we do?" "I want to help you prepare. We can work together to thwart their plans. In exchange, I need your trust and cooperation." "This is not something you can handle alone," Charybdis replied, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. Gareth stepped forward, skepticism etched on his face. "And why should we trust you? You've made enemies, and your past isn't exactly squeaky clean." Charybdis chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Penn's spine. "True, but neither is yours, is it? We all have our secrets, but I assure you, my intentions are genuine. The storm is coming, and you need allies." Penn exchanged glances with Deeg and Gareth, her mind racing. The prospect of forming an alliance with Charybdis was fraught with peril, but the threat he described loomed larger than any of them could have anticipated. "Fine," Penn said, her voice steady. "We'll consider your offer, but we're not agreeing to anything until we know more." "Fair enough, Scylla. But know this, time is of the essence." "The storm is closer than you think," Charybdis warned, a serious edge creeping into his voice. As they continued to talk, Penn felt a sense of urgency building. Charybdis was offering them a lifeline, but at what cost? The night was filled with unanswered questions, and the path ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty. With their fates intertwined, they stepped into the unknown, preparing to navigate the treacherous waters of a galaxy on the brink of chaos. The storm was coming, and they had to be ready for whatever lay ahead.